back, and my guest is Guy Hatcher. He is called the Legacy Guy, or at least that's one of his nicknames. He's also known as the table or the kitchen table converter. I'll have it explain that in just a moment. But he's authored a book. It's really a fascinating book called Your Future Reflection. How to Leave a Legacy Beyond Money. There's a picture of it there on the screen for those watching on the Dove TV, and we're going to talk to him about it. Hi, Guy. How you doing?
Good morning. How are you doing, Perry?
Good. Nice to see you. Where are we Skyping you in from?
Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas.
Okay. Well, you got warm weather, cold weather. What you got going on down there?
Kind of average today. It's been a little cooler at the first part of this week, and cold for us is anything below 32, which is sad, but that's true.
Okay.
But it's going to be warm today, so that's good.
All right. Hey, nice to have you. Tell us about your background and why you got into this topic.
Well, long story, about 26 years ago, Pierre, I came in through the financial services industry and really started specializing in estate planning, working with attorneys. I'm a certified financial planner, and throughout my career probably have sat down with about 10,000 families, helped them really define, how they're going to hand off their estate to the next generation. And what was interesting to me is there's always this burning desire as I sit down with someone maybe in their 70s, to really hand that torch off or pass that baton efficiently. And so they always come to me and say, Guy, will you help me with the assets? But Perry, what I started realizing, it's really not about the assets. It's really about more. And in the last 2 years, I started this journey of research in Scripture, and that's basically how we ended up with the book, Your Future Reflection.
All right. So it seems like a lot of people are hung up in leaving their family wealth. And you're more concerned beyond that.
That's true. I mean, where this journey really started for me, once again, I've sat with so many people in their latter days. I've handed, the estate off to the next generation. And one thing I kept always seeing is when mom and dad have both passed away, that, normally the kids are going to be arguing over a bag of cash or maybe a family heirloom. And what they're really discussing in where the pain is really coming from, Perry, from my experience, is it's really about the lack of the affirmation or the blessing that they did not feel like they received as a child. So it's always interesting to me, son is saying, well, Daddy loved you more. He came to more of your dance recitals and my football games. And nearly every family is this way. Mm-hmm. And it's really sad. And I just think that's how Satan actually comes in and destroys future generations. And I think it's just a more effective way if the patriarch and matriarch, could actually communicate more effectively beforehand, and also in how they hand the assets off. It would actually be easier for the next generation to accept it.
So when you sit down with the family and you're starting this process, how do you walk them through this?
Great question. I mean, everybody always wants to start with the assets. So as a professional, sure, I'm going to look at their net worth. I'm going to look, do they have a will? Do they have a trust? What type of relationship do they have with the kids? Are they close? Is it kind of distant? And those type of things. But really what I'm going to try to take them to is the things I think that matter most. And what we've done in the book is we broke it down into 5 core components. The first one is what I call heritage. How do you receive the heritage from your parents? And I always like to refer to it as an orchard. Well, when I received mine from my parents, my dad passed away about 6 years ago. I basically looked at things that Dad did great, and I looked at things like, I really don't want to continue that into my children and my next generation. So I started pruning my family tree. So I really talked to them about things that they received from their parents they want to continue going forward, and things they might want to change for the next generation. Second thing we're going to talk about is values. Perry, this is really interesting to me. People live out values, but they're really not identifying what those values are. And so what I've tried to do in the book is say, okay, what are the core values that you as an individual in your faith, about your career, in your relationships with your family that you would like to communicate and hand off to the next generation? Third thing we get into is vision. How can I really cast strong vision as the patriarch of my family? And I've got 2 girls. I've got a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old. And what my wife and I are trying to do is communicate, this is where we came from, this is what we believe, and this is where we think God wants you to go forward as of today. We talk about relationships. How do you have healthy relationships? third-party relationships that you like to continue with the family that are positive, like mentors and leaders in the church or leaders in the community. And then the last thing we get to is the assets. So actually, I start with the first four, and then we slowly actually get back into the assets, how to officially transfer that.
Well, that's wonderful, Guy. That just says a lot. Do you see any differences when it comes to generations, from one generation to another?
Oh, tremendous. In the book, I talk about the different generations, four predominant coming out of, the last 100 years. We got the traditionalists, then we go into the baby boomers, and then we go into what we call the baby busters, and then we get into the mosaics. I'm actually a baby boomer. I was born in 1959. Looking at my generation, coming out of the war that the states have been in, going into the 60s, seeing all the change that went on in the 60s. We're a very driven generation. But one other thing I talk about in the book, Perry, is I actually talk about entitlement, and I think that actually played between the boomers and the busters. And the busters, were actually born in 1965 up to 1983. And here's why, and this is something I try to discuss in the book, and I kind of share with you how I see it played out every day, is that we've really created that entitlement because as a boomer, what we really did is we drove our bodies to go get what the world says is the real value and the worth today. So we chased the big buck and we chased the dream. Mom came out of the home. She went into the workforce in the 70s, and I think that's when entitlement happened, because what families did is they had success. They had income. And what's really interesting to me, Perry, is they said, we don't want you to have to do what we did. Well, I always laugh at that because actually what I did had a great work ethic, learned to be faithful, learned to be honest. So those are things that I do want to pass on to my children, and which is really interesting. But instantly, a lot of families automatically started spoiling their children with all of the, the wealth and the things coming off the wealth. And I think that's where entitlement really has taken off. So yes, I think the generations and how we look at entitlement, how we look at legacy, how we look at values are totally different, especially in the last two.
Wow. I would imagine in your position, meeting with a variety of generations and then your own personal family, here you are, a late boomer with a young family.
Yes.
Do your kids look at this a little different?
I think they do. Mom and I are both, well mature, as since she's probably watching now, and she'd rather use that word. God bless us. God bless the slate, but you take them when you get them. But I'm going to tell you, as far as I think we're a more established family because we were established emotionally and, of course, financially. And I think I'm a more balanced parent because of that. I have great conversations with the girls, Perry. I mean, I'm talking about legacy. I'm talking about what Mom and I have received and the positives coming out of our family tree and some negatives we do not want to, carry forward. I actually bring this up in the book. It's always interesting. I talk about pruning, and I think it's healthy to prune. In the example of even as emotionally healthy and stable as I feel like I am in my, my current age, I actually ask myself periodically, do I think my children will prune? Sure they will, because dads never do it right. Moms never get it totally right. But here's the key. What I'm trying to do in our generational heritage and in our family tree is every generation gets healthier and more consistent with what the Lord is calling them to do in their life.
That's fascinating. How do people get a copy of your book, Guy?
You can go to Amazon.com and then GuyHatcher.com. We have some other resources. You can go there also, Perry.
All right, GuyHatcher.com or Amazon.com. It's called Your Future Reflection, How to Leave a Legacy Beyond Money. One more quick question before I let you go. At the end of the day, I know you get the assets. And a lot of people will say assets are a result of their profession, their work, their livelihood, when really at the end of the day it's God's blessings. How do you bring that into it?
That is a great point. Great point. I actually just start with those, with that conversation. The reality is this. There are a lot of talented individuals, and most people that I have worked with normally believe it's off of their hard work, and they really don't take God into consideration. as I continue to increase in my faith, I try to share that with other people. It really is the blessings from God is the reasons that we are getting that. So I just try to bring it up. We try to communicate about that. We try to also communicate that with the next generation, how God has blessed us financially, and how can we incorporate this positively, going, generation after generation.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thanks, Guy, for your time. Happy New Year to you. Blessings. Keep up the good work, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Take care.
All right. See you later. We'll be right back.